folks. Today I'd like to talk to you about the Real Estate Investor's Toolbox. Now, when I talk about a toolbox, what I mean is transforming what you do into something more powerful than you thought, because that's really what a tool is. What you do with the tool is you take your energy and you make it bigger than what you had before. And so when we're talking about a real estate investor's toolbox, let's talk about the number one most important tool that you have, and that is being indifferent. What are you talking about? As a real estate investor, you want to be engaged in the process, you want to be involved, but you want to be able to walk away from any deal. Because if you go up and you're just looking at the house, and say, this is a gorgeous house, I'll pay any price, you've lost. What you're looking for is you want to only deal with properties that have a motivated seller. And here's what a motivated seller has to have. Number one, they have to have pain, which means that they have a problem and that they see that problem as being larger and more fearful to them than the possibility of losing money on their investment, which is their house. Number two, they have to have a time crunch. The time crunch has to be something they have to sell, and they have to sell now. If they have to sell, but they've got 6 months, a year to sell, they're not really motivated. And so when you start talking to someone that doesn't have a time crunch, they can wait. They can get a better deal from somebody else. What you're looking for is somebody that needs to take action right now. If they don't need to take action right now, next. Number three, you're looking for somebody that has a dreadful alternative. Somebody might have pain. They might have a time crunch. But if they don't have a dreadful alternative, if they lose the house, so what? What you want to do is you want to raise the pain by asking them questions and having them tell you what their dreadful alternative is. If they don't have a dreadful alternative, they don't really care if they lose the house, they don't care about their credit, they really don't have a need to go ahead and talk to you. Now, only 1 out of 20 or less people is going to be in a situation where they're going to be motivated and have their circumstances such that they can do a deal with you that's going to be according to what you need. What does that mean? You need to be able to make offers quickly. You need to be able to go ahead and look at a house and very, very quickly determine if this is something that is sort of within your range, what the value is, where you want to make an offer, and then go forward. And so, real quick story, Jimmy Napier used to tell this story about the local chatterbox. He would always go in, he would just touch everything. And he was coming in, and the local blacksmith saw him coming up the street. So he took this horseshoe and he heated up real hot. And they set it on the anvil. And the horseshoe went from being white hot to it came to its regular color. Just then, the chatterbox came, picked it up, set it down real quick. And the blacksmith looked at it and says, "What's the matter, too hot for you?" And the chatterbox looked at him and says, "No, it just doesn't take me long to take a look at a horseshoe." That's sort of the way that you want to be. You want to not take too long to look at these houses. And so here is the next tool that you're going to have in your toolbox. You want to be able to do this quickly, and the way you do that is you need to know what the value is of every property, pretty close, quick, so that when you go out and look at a property, you know roughly what the property is worth in that neighborhood. The way you do that is by using the 5 hows. The first how is how big. How big is the house? How many square feet? How big is the lot? If it's over 5 acres, you don't really care about anything over 5 acres. The first 5 acres are the only thing you're really concerned about. Most houses, you're not going to have that problem. But if all the value is in the land, that's not really a standard house. So you're looking for traditional houses. How big is it? Number two, how old is it? If it's more than 10, 15, 20 years old, chances are it needs a lot of work. And if you start looking at a 30, 40-year-old house, it might be in great shape, but you might need to put $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 into it just to bring it up to speed with the other houses in the neighborhood. That $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 might be your profit. So try to stay away from those houses that don't meet your needs. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Now, depending on your neighborhood, you want to know what is common in your neighborhood. In some areas, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, that is all that's available. However, in most areas, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath is the standard. You're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, about 1,500 square feet, if that's the norm in your area. Number 4, how many bathrooms? Again, what's common in the neighborhood? 2 bedrooms is most acceptable. 3 bedrooms and up, that is even better. And finally, how much? And you want to know what price they're asking, but also you want to find out how long has it been at that price, and have they made any price reductions? Why would you want to know those questions? If they've had the property for sale for 6 months, they haven't lowered the price, and they have had no action on it, they're probably too high. However, in talking to them, maybe you're talking to them and they just realize, we need to lower our price. That's exactly the right time to talk to them. Somebody that has just put the property on the market yesterday and they don't really have a time crunch and they have it listed with the realtor, but if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't sell, hey, they've got other things they're doing. They're not motivated. I remember once we were teaching this real estate seminar, and we told our students, you need to find out what their motivation is. Why are they motivated? And so we asked this one student, what's their motivation? Well, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. What's their motivation? Well, it's 1,500 square feet. What's their motivation? It's in a beautiful subdivision. What's their motivation? It's in a cul-de-sac. I don't care about that. What is the motivation? If they don't need to sell, how are you going to be able to convince them to sell it to you under market value? So when you're talking to people, you want to be able to quickly find out what it's worth according to what other houses in the area are worth, make an offer, and have weasel clauses. And the third tool we're going to talk about today is weasel clauses. When you make an offer, what you want to do is you want to have this weasel clause in there. This offer is subject to approval by financial advisor within 48 hours of acceptance of this offer. What does that mean? What that means is that you've got 48 hours to go out and look at the property and see if it's something that you like. If you go out and look at it and you say, whoa, this is something I don't want to do, then you say, my financial advisor said no. Weasel clause number 2. This offer is subject to acceptable home inspection by a certified and licensed property inspector, paid for by the buyer. That would be you. What does that mean? Once they've accepted the offer, now what you want to do is you go out and take a look at it, and with your own experience, with your own wisdom, determine if this is a property that you want. And after they have said yes, and only after they've said yes, and after you've gone through and you've looked at the property and you say yes, then you can hire an inspector to look at the property. Now, what does this mean to you? When you have a licensed and certified property inspector that gives you a report listing the deficiencies, let's say it needs a new roof. When you give that report to the seller, what happens? They have to disclose that to every other buyer that's out there. Otherwise, they could have a lot of liability. Oh, you didn't tell me that. Well, I didn't know. Yes, you did. You had this report. So they're going to disclose this to everybody. So pretty much at this point, once you have that property inspector report, You can say, hey, you're going to have to fix it for anybody else. Why not go forward with me at this price? If you'll go ahead and fix that, we'll go forward. What you can do is sometimes you can reduce the price another $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 just by having that property inspection report done, because if they don't disclose that to everybody else, they could get sued. And they don't want to get sued. Realtors especially don't want to get sued, and the seller, once they have that information made known to them, if they don't disclose those deficiencies to every other prospective buyer from then on, they get sued. So they're going to have to do it anyway. Just a couple of ways for you to quickly determine if this is a property that you want to do. And then finally, what you want to do is, what I would suggest, make multiple offers. I remember one time I wanted to buy a house, and I went to a friend of mine that was a realtor, and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make 20, 30, 40 offers on properties, but we're only going to take a look at those properties that the owners have said yes, or they made a counteroffer on my offer. And so here's what I want to do with you. In Florida, we have a fire bar contract, Florida Association of Realtors. I'll go ahead and fill out the final 6 pages. Go ahead and sign everything. And all you need to do is, if we have a property that someone says yes to, I'll go ahead and make an offer. I'll just go ahead and rewrite page number 1, the address, the name, those other things. The only thing you're going to have to do is rewrite page number 1 for all these offers. So here's what you'll do. You'll go ahead and fax or email over to me the property address. That's all I need. If you have pictures, that's great, but I'll go online. I'll get all the due diligence. I'll find out from the property valuation sites like Zillow.com, like ePraisal.com, what the property's worth. I'll go ahead and do my due diligence, and then I'll make an offer to you at roughly 65–70% of what the asking price is. If they say yes, or if they counter, great, then we'll go out and look at it. But I don't want to waste your time as a realtor by having you show me 20, 30, 40 properties. All I need, show me the properties that sort of fit within my dynamic, within my demographic, what I'm looking for. I'll go ahead and make the offers. If they say yes, then I'll go out and look at it, and we might go ahead and do some more negotiating from there. Now, why in the world would a realtor do that? Do you know how tired a realtor is of driving people around? If they only are going out and looking at properties that the seller's already said yes to, wouldn't you want to deal with a buyer like that? Of course you would. Wouldn't you want to deal with sellers that the only time that you're going out and looking at a property is after the seller said yes? Absolutely. So what I just done is I made her job easier. That's what you want to do. You want to, if you're going to look at a lot of properties, do most of the heavy lifting yourself. Do most of the due diligence. Only look at those properties that the seller said yes to after you've done your due diligence, as long as you have your weasel clauses in there. When you do that, those are a couple of the tools in your toolbox so that you can automate the process and become a professional real estate investor.